Hi, everyone. Welcome to our live stream, which is, as always, going to be very interesting and exciting. We have a great topic tonight where we're going to be talking about all different kinds of events that people are thinking about or obsessed with in terms of the future of humanity, where we're headed. And Philip and I have been talking about this all week, actually, I think 2 weeks now, and we came up with the important one, the ones that are very popular, starting with the religious one that we can't kind of escape because it just happened, which was a coincidental. We didn't plan this, but we can't escape from talking about it. So we're going to be starting with the recent Rapture event.
Yeah.
But
Our
let's
live streams, when we discuss them, they kind of go through different iterations. Like Susan and I will get together and we'll try and talk about something that would be interesting for you guys to interact with us about. Since usually our channel is the hub for all things Neogenian, we're always trying to look at how we can put it through the Neogenian lens. And a lot of this stuff, when we start discussing, what we end up discussing is something completely different as we kind of perfect it. So we're kind of talking about how people think that some things are going to save humankind or the planet or where they think reality is headed. There's a lot of different options and a lot of cool things that we have to talk about. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you to Elise and Mark, who are great moderators, for being here. Angela says Philip has an echo. Does anybody else have
That's
an
my
echo?
fault. Hang on. I need to turn my thing down. So Philip, say something.
Something. Hello. Is it still echoey?
Okay,
Sometimes
now,
Susan has to turn her speaker down a
yeah,
little bit.
I turned my speaker up because of my ears are really clogged right now, especially. So,
Yeah.
so whoever
Hello,
had
that's
that,
fine.
whoever was hearing the echo, are you still hearing it? Philip, talk for a bit.
Also, thank you to Angela, who's been a member for 18 months at the wavelet level and says, thanks for everything. Thank you to you.
Thank you. Thank you
Zeus
for
says,
being a
much
member.
better. Better. Thank you so much.
Thank you for reminding me. I think it was it Zeus, because yeah, okay, that was my fault. Sorry, I should be wearing headphones anyway. Glad you said something. And it just means that Philip's very quiet for me, but it's fine.
Cool. Excellent.
So yeah,
So we're gonna have a lot of cool stuff that we wanted to talk with you guys about today, and we look forward to seeing some of your comments about it. And welcome to all of you. Thank you to everybody for liking the video. Please share the video if you would like, and of course, we always appreciate all of your comments, super chats. Don't feel obliged. That's just something nice that you guys do for us sometimes, but we don't expect that. We are just glad to see you and have you in our comments because we enjoy our Neogenian community.
and
Hi Ren
yep.
and hi Zeus and Angela and Laura,
Laura,
all about Witch
Witch
Whisper.
Whisper, who upgraded earlier, which was nice, and Depth Side, hello, and Angela
And
and
also, if
Andy.
you
Andy
stick
can't
around,
stay, but thank you for dropping in real quick.
also,
Oh,
if you stick around after this live stream, we are going to have a members only live stream, and Susan has put the link for that in our. It's now called the post tab on our
yeah, in
channel.
our
It
community.
used to it used to be called the community board, but now it's called post. So you can find that on our channel
Yeah,
hub.
and how Hi Outlier. I think we said hi to everybody. Whoops, I'm
Yeah.
always clicking something and losing everything. Um,
So recently we've had some religious hubbub. What about that?
okay, what did you guys, please, while we're talking, please type in, tell us what you think about what you heard in terms of the recent rapture. For me, for somebody who wasn't raised in this, I had, several, hi Halo, I had several different kind of responses. I mean, the first one was, yeah, I find it, really kind of humorous and ridiculous, but at the same time, I was hit with a lot of people who I follow who are ex Pentecostals or evangelicals, or they were just somehow raised in that. Yes, I do know what you think, Mark. Who were raised in with that, and oh, we have a visitor. Look, it's Pepper.
That's funny.
That was
That's
Pepper
funny.
wanted to be on camera. She's like, "Will you pick me up, Daddy?" So anyway, it was really disturbing to watch these creators talking about the levels of triggering that they were going through during the rapture. I mean, some of them were uh you could tell have gone through a lot of healing and have gotten over it and could treat it with humor, could treat it with where they just wanted to give
Yeah.
education out there.
And
um
this is a good comment from Mark. Mark says provable religious psychosis, but it doesn't change when their core beliefs, or it doesn't change their core beliefs when it fails.
yeah, and Philip, we were just talking about this because I wanted to look up right before the stream. I meant to do this earlier. uh I wanted to know how many people really thought that, how many people out there really thought the rapture was going to happen? Because if you just go by what you saw on TikTok, you would think everybody, like every single
And
Christian.
I'm an ex-Christian, and my algorithms are very anti-Christian because that's not what I'm into anymore. So usually I hit not interested to change my algorithm, and
Oh,
I still saw a lot of it, which was
yeah.
very surprising because it was just a lot of people were getting into it, and some of it was satire. Like I saw some people saying some things you could tell they were kind of being
Well,
satirical.
keep in mind that the reason people jump on that bandwagon of whatever's popular at any moment is because they know that's what's popular. They know that's what people will watch, and they're monetized, so they're looking for that. And I get that completely. Some people weigh in on something because it's actually their field, and they are educators and they want to educate people. So I understand that as well. The thing that bothered me the most was seeing people, especially educators, who speak about getting over religion, even some of the people who do it with humor. uh, we're talking about how even though they know better, it's still triggering,
Mhm.
and that was just very disturbing for me to see that they, because there's suffering involved in that.
Yeah.
At some of them, I was even thinking, really reminded at the fact that this is child abuse,
Yeah.
because I know there was at
And
least one person who was relating what they went through growing up. And if they hadn't done that, I wouldn't have understood the extent to which they had been conditioned, the extent
yeah,
to
and
which they lived with.
I definitely was told many times when I was a kid that a rapture was coming. And for me, it was a bit traumatic. And that trauma was personified with this movie that a lot of you have probably heard about called Left Behind. It was also
Right.
a book series. And we have a photo of the poster that Susan will pull up so
Everybody
that
was
you can
talking
see.
about this series. Every time
Yeah.
anybody talked about it, here, let me show you the poster for it.
So when
It's
I
this
was a
one.
kid, I had to watch these movies, and it was almost spoken about as if this is what's going to happen. And so between then and now, it took quite a while to kind of get away from like all of the fear-based kind of trauma that was lingering from not only that movie but also what people would say about the rapture. Like it's a second level of fear conditioning. So the first level of fear conditioning you have is if you're not a good Christian, you're going to go to hell. That is base one of fear conditioning. And then the second level of that is if you don't live your life as a good Christian, you won't be raptured. You'll be left behind to suffer in an apocalyptic world. And that is like a whole second layer of trauma, which is interesting because I don't think that the rapture is in the Bible and it came much later. And, people always say, oh, well, only God knows the time and the date of the rapture. Every time we have one of these prophecies where everybody says it's coming, the rapture is going to be so and so date, you have some people that are very prophetic about it, and you have the other Christians who seem to say only God knows the time and the date, it won't happen. And then after
Yeah.
those dates come and go, you have people who say this was a test of God's
I've already
to
seen that.
test humanity. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we talked about that a little bit. They would say it's a test. This was to test your faith, to see how people would act in the end times, to see how they would prepare for the rapture. Or it was they wouldn't, I never heard anybody really say that it was a threat, but it was like a reminder of God's plan of what's coming
Yeah.
and things like that.
But 100% of these predictions have been 100% wrong. And I heard lots of people reminding us of that. Hi, Lee. Lee's in here. It's so weird, this obsession they get about being a good Christian, like that's such deep psychological warfare. The other thing about the being a good Christian is that the definition of what a good Christian is often completely different from what Christ said.
Yeah.
I don't understand that either. But then again, I'm not coming from someone who grew up with that. But like I said, it was the people who were triggered and the reminder of what trauma is produced and how it's child abuse. When you listen to adults talking about the terror they went through as kids, to the point where even though they know better now, they're still saying, but a little part of me is still worried, like what if? And it's basically that, maybe I should have made a different decision just in case. And it comes down to that Pascal's wager thing.
And with that movie Left Behind, I think I told you that movie came out in 2000 or 2001 sometime. I would have been 7 years old in 2001. And I left religion. I left Christianity when I was 13, 14. So I would have seen it within the 7 years between 7 years old and 14 years old. And that's a very young age to be traumatized by things like that. And the people who believe it will really happen. And this is the way it will be. It will be apocalyptic. Like in that movie, there's planes falling from the sky and clothes, from people who have been raptured. And it's very terrifying.
There was a woman on TikTok, and I know that she was serious. And I mean, she was crying, saying, how am I supposed to handle the fact that I'm not going to see my kids again? My two babies. What do you do with that? And she was crying. And that was one of the times when I thought, this is abuse.
Yeah.
This is absolutely abuse. Now, as you mentioned, not every Christian believed this. There were Christians out there saying, nobody knows. It says in the Bible that you won't know. And what I didn't know was, and I had just looked up because I forgot to, I don't care about the rapture enough to have studied it for too long about what the numbers are. But I wanted to know, to tell you guys, like how many people actually believed it. And you don't get an answer on that because there's no number that it can say, oh, this was the number of people out there that believed it this time. However, a Pew research study showed that in 2022, almost 50% of Christians believe that we are in the end times. And it was something, what was it, 40% of Christians believed in the rapture.
I was also told that many times growing up, that we are in the end times, that we have to prepare for the end times.
For the end times. Can you imagine?
Which also sounds very frightening.
I know my husband was raised Jehovah's Witness, so he had enough of that as well. He knew in 1975, I think it was 75, he knew enough to know that it's not coming. But his whole family was preparing for the end. And then it didn't happen. So he's told me that at least they... because they don't use the same timeline that other groups of Christians use. So I don't think that they were involved in this recent one. They had their own people figuring out when it should be, and they were wrong enough times, and there was enough people leaving because they were dissatisfied with having probably going through this kind of trauma and then not having it happen, that they've pulled back on the rapture situation. But this was probably the biggest rapture that I've heard about, because I haven't paid attention to others. I'm not in that in that sphere. So,
Just really
um,
quick, we missed a super, what do you call them? A
oh,
chat from Laura,
yeah,
member for 39 months, milestone chat, says 39 months of learning bliss. Thank you, Laura, for being a supporter of the Neogenian Oculus. You've been a supporter for much longer than 39 months, but glad to have you in our community. And also Ren, member for 45 months, also has been around a lot longer than that. Says I was raised Catholic and we don't believe in it,
yeah.
which
And
is
Angela
interesting.
earlier said, thanks for everything. And we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Um,
And you guys, one of the reasons that we wanted to talk about this, not only because it's been trendy lately in the news and online and in social media and things, but also because with this live stream, we want to bring into focus some of the different genres of ways that people think that the world is going, or where the world will end up, and we kind of want to look at that through a rational lens. So
mhm.
when you talk about the rapture, any component of it is not a rational argument. None of that, because it's a faith-based argument, and also because it's not rational to imagine people being sucked up into the air by a creator God. So we want to put some of these things into perspective, and then at the end of the live stream, Susan and I are going to kind of tie things together in the Neogenian view, while also sprinkling Neogenian concepts in throughout the live stream.
Yeah. And I mean, we started with the Rapture one because it's so recent, but, I'm not expecting anything that we say is going to change anyone's mind who
Oh,
firmly believes
definitely
in it.
not.
That's not our objective. However, we are definitely a community for people who have left religion, and who have gone through the deconstruction process, and who definitely who have RTS, any kind of trauma, religious trauma syndrome. You will find a lot of support here. With
Yeah.
that said, there's
And
some new people in here, and I would like to say hello to them. Debbie Foster, hello, welcome. It sounds like you're new to the channel and you're looking forward to this. This is great. If you found Neogenian content through Morgue Official's channel, and you're in the right place, because if you're interested in when Morgue talks about anything Neogenian, that's what we are for. We are for the community, for people who are interested specifically in Morgue's material on the Neogenian system. And also, Mark, hi, Mark 814. Marks, it says, I was raised Catholic and my heart and mind led me to Gnosticism. I understand all the things that made no sense growing up. Yeah, oh,
hi, Olga.
there's my mom is in here. Um, Mom grew up in a Christian family and never heard about it. Mom, I don't even know. I don't know. Were you taken to church? I think we've talked about it. My parents never took us to church once. Mom, that's my mom. Oh, yeah, never took us once. Didn't get us baptized. Nothing. We were just allowed to go and explore and go to. We could go with our friends to any church, any kind of religion. They never stopped us, so we were allowed to just pick up what we wanted to. But they were always there, my mother and
I
father,
love that.
to, yeah, it was really good. They never said, oh, you can't go
I
to the
wish more
Presbyterian.
parents were like that.
Pardon, yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
they see, when you have parents who believe in one thing, they don't want you going to explore something
Yeah.
else. Whereas my parents said, sure, you can go and find out about that. And they were there if I had questions. If I came back and said, oh,
You're
I'm
one of the
believing in
lucky
this, or
ones.
this is truth, I think they would have walked me through some really important critical thinking questions, but they didn't stop me from
Yeah.
doing
You're
anything.
you're definitely one of the lucky ones.
It,
And also
you know,
thank you to
yeah.
Lee for being a member for 43 months, says unveiling the darkness to bring chaos into order. Thank you, Lee.
Um, oh yeah, I just saw that. Thank you, Lee. 43 months. Wow. Um, so yes, yes, my grandfather, my mother's father, used to go to church. I think it was very social. I think with my father's side of the family, I think my grandmother was a very quiet believer, and I think she was upset that we weren't baptized, but she wasn't going to say anything. She
Mhm.
never. She gave my sister and me Bibles, I think
Yeah.
she wanted to make sure we had them, but she never pushed anything on us. So
I was
I
even
was,
baptized twice for good measure.
you were?
I was baptized twice when
Oh, I
I was
think you told me
like
that.
very, very young, and then again when I was like probably 10 or 11, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah. But you can
Wow.
be baptized many times just to cleanse your sins or whatever and all of that
You
stuff.
know, considering that I was susceptible to being very scared of things, it is a
Mhm.
really good thing that I didn't have religion put on me. I think I would have been
Mhm.
very traumatized.
Speaking
But
of being scared of things, what do you think we move on to the
yes,
next
we really need to,
segment?
is yeah, because we have a lot. And Philip, we're moving into the next
Mhm.
category, which is extraterrestrials, aliens. And what precipitated this section was this comet that I think people have been hearing about.
Yeah.
And Philip is my go-to person for all things when extraterrestrial. When I brought up the comet thing, Philip came out with so many other,
Yeah.
like, do you know about this and do you know about this? So Philip, you take it away.
So, since we're talking about things that have been trendy and in the news and that everybody's talking about lately, a lot of people have been discussing something called the Three Eye Atlas Comet. And Susan has a photo of its trajectory. So, this
I
comet
do.
is something, it's an interstellar object that's going to be coming through our galaxy, through our solar system. It's going to kind of boomerang around Earth and then leave again. So we wanted to kind of talk about the ET, UAP, UFO. Uh, yeah, that's it right there. So that's a little, the white line is the trajectory of the comet. And those little dots, it's kind of going through our solar
It's
system
going to be
there.
really close to Mars.
Yeah. So we wanted to talk about the ET section because since we're on the theme of everybody, what everybody has wrong about where humanity's going, a lot of people kind of have this misconception that ETs or even this comet are coming to save us. So there is a famous, I think he's a physicist at Harvard named Dr. Avi Loeb. He may not be a doctor, but his name is Avi Loeb. And he is studying Three Eye Atlas. And he is one of the only people who is saying that this could potentially be extraterrestrial in origin. So when Susan and I were talking the other night, I think I kind of might have blown the top of your head off a little bit with just bringing out more and more and more stuff. And you just kept saying, my goodness, you know so much about this. And it's really true. And so I'm going to be careful about the way that I talk about this stuff in the live stream because there is a tendency to go down lots of rabbit holes and get stuck in those rabbit holes. So I described the ET phenomena topic to Susan as a Venn diagram that's so complex that normally Venn diagrams overlap and you just see it as a 2D thing. But I see the ET Venn diagram as almost 3D, and it's also connected to the conspiracy theory Venn diagram.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things that overlap. You have to really be careful and use discernment with what you're talking about. So it seems like in the ET phenomena conversation lately, especially with all the United States congressional hearings, you have the threat versus saving kind of argument. So, especially with some of the government people, like I'm sure you've heard of groups like Arrow and ATIP that are studying this phenomena. They usually use the term threat, aerial phenomena threat. They're over our airspace, over our military bases. They always use the word threat. And then in the UFO community, you also have a large group of people who think that extraterrestrials would be so advanced that they would come and they would save humanity. They would save us from ourselves or from some kind of biological apocalypse that happens with the Earth, like some kind of event. So it's kind of a, yeah, Mark says tinfoil hat overlap, definitely.
For sure.
So you have to be careful with where you're going with this because there's definitely crazy people out there, people like Alex Jones and people like David Icke who talk about reptilian overlords. And Susan and I didn't really want to focus on any of that because you, like I said, you go down these rabbit holes of stuff that there's no there. It's all speculation. There's not really a lot of truth content there. So what is interesting to me is a lot of people also use the term spiritual with the ET phenomena. Despite him not being that great of a person, in my opinion, Tucker Carlson has been one of the most prominent voices saying that he believes extraterrestrials are a spiritual phenomena or angelic in nature. And that could be something that humanity has encountered for millennia and doesn't fully understand. So I also wanted to bring up a quote by somebody that Susan and I are a big fan of called Carl Sagan, named Carl Sagan, and that is extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So when you're looking at all of these extraordinary claims, you want to look at it in terms of how much of that is speculation or just bold claims, and how much of it can you really kind of piece through. So, in the Neogenian community and in Morg's work, we talk a lot about collective frequency domains. We talk a lot about interdimensionality. So, a collective frequency domain is a subset network of minds that are so in harmony, so unified, so aligned that they are in complete harmony with another in that subset holos. So, in my opinion, I think that this phenomena would be most likely like that. It would be an interdimensional thing. And I see a lot of comments going through. I'll have to kind of go back and look at some of those. And that to me is the most fascinating. I think the interdimensional argument is a lot more plausible than the argument of creatures coming here in physical crafts going across vast distances in space. I'm not saying that that's impossible. I say it's just less plausible. It's more plausible for the interdimensionality, especially when you start getting into all of the arguments of physics and how would they get here and the
Mm-hmm.
traveling and the different things with that.
Yeah.
So we also have a photo here that Susan's going to pull up. We talk a lot about DMT in the Neogenian community. And I'm also a big fan of Terence McKenna, who talks a lot about DMT. So, DMT is a psychoactive substance that when you take or when you are experiencing this psychoactive substance, many people have said that they experience interdimensional beings. And one of those interdimensional beings is self transforming space elves. Now, that sounds really crazy.
Yeah.
And Susan will bring up this photo
But
here.
that's not the picture that I have. I just
Yeah,
wanted an example of a
there's
DMT
other,
entity, and this is the
yeah,
this is the jester archetype one. Um,
yeah,
so that's kind of just to give you a visual.
yeah. So I
You
was
know,
going to say there's multiple different archetypes that people see and report seeing. This one is kind of a jester archetype. I really liked this one that Susan made. I like all the toroidal shapes and the colors and textures. That's very similar to what you would experience in a DMT trip. And so initially, when Susan and I were thinking about this live stream, we were actually talking about what it would be like to experience higher intelligences or communicate with some form of higher intelligence. Now, there's a big argument as to whether these interdimensional beings in a DMT trip are a part of your consciousness or if we are tapping into something like a collective frequency domain where we are experiencing these other higher intelligences. And there's people doing research on that as we speak. And I think it'll be interesting to see how that research develops and what we can learn about these different things and how they can aid us in our consciousness
yeah,
expansion.
that is something
Mark,
I'm very interested in as well. I
yeah,
wish there was more research, and frankly, it's astounding to me given the fact that many people have had the same encounters. That alone, you would think would be enough to motivate people to study this a lot more to try to figure out
yeah.
what's going on there.
And when I'm talking about all of this stuff, I was telling Susan the other night that I try not to ever say, I believe this, because I don't want to operate on any kind of manner of faith. I don't want to use these arguments as a manner of faith of saying, I believe that Pleiadians are coming from this star system or anything like that, because what I'm most interested in is the truth content, what we can know for certain, and also things like the interdimensional stuff that I find very interesting. I often say, this is what I think it may be, but I don't know. And
Mm.
I think it's going to be a long time before we can actually say we know. And especially, I was telling Susan in the UFO field, there's also so much disinformation out there. I'm sure because governments have advanced technology, they probably spin some kind of disinformation and maybe make people think that this is what this is, or kind of throw them off the trail of things that they're actually developing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all of these different variables and all of these different things that come into play. And I just want to say, be careful when you're kind of trying to discern fact from fiction there. Now, all of it's very fascinating. I would talk about this stuff for hours and hours on end. I've done DMT plenty of times in my younger years, and I'm very fascinated about all of the science behind that. I'm also fascinated from the historical aspect. You see many, many paintings of what looks like a UFO in the background of some of these
Mm-hmm.
Renaissance paintings and things like that. And it makes you wonder if what they were seeing was some kind of consciousness, spiritual phenomena where maybe they projected something, or maybe they experienced something that they couldn't explain. All of that
Yeah.
is so fascinating, but
Or
the
whether
answer
there
to,
was an event that people
yeah,
saw that
yeah,
they don't know how to, that they just memorialized, but they don't know
yeah,
what it was for sure.
that's exactly right. The answer that we always come back to is I'm not sure, or I don't
What,
know.
what do you think about, because you had, we talked so much this week, and I watched a video on those Peruvian mummies
Yeah,
where, and one of the aspects, and there was some things that were very like red flaggy for me, but other areas where I really want someone to study this, which they are,
mhm.
and answer some questions. So because I just like the person whose channel was that,
His name is Jesse Michaels.
right?
So, for anybody who's not familiar, what Susan's talking about with these Peruvian mummies, many of these bigger mummies have been found in Brazil, South America, Peru, that they call them the tridactyl beings.
That's it.
And they are these mummies that have 3 fingers and 3 toes. Now, there's so many rabbit holes to fall down in that I was telling Susan. I watched this documentary and I wanted to look at it from a objective viewpoint, and there is a lot of interesting things there. They put these mummies through CAT scans, and you see tendons and bones and all of these things that look like they would be very difficult to fake. But also, you want to be sure when explaining to someone that you're careful the way you describe things,
Yeah,
because there is a lot of fakery out there.
yeah.
And if anybody wants to look into that, if you just type in Peruvian mummies on YouTube, you can find all kinds of videos about that.
But
And so,
I
like when I
was
was talking, sorry.
no, I was just going to say, because when you talked about the medieval painting with a depiction of a UFO, that reminded me that in that video, in that live stream or video, they showed in Peru those giant, like the drawings on the ground that you
Yeah,
could really only appreciate from the sky. And that has always intrigued me. It's like, why would you create something like that?
yeah.
You know,
There's so many questions, and like earlier, what I was going to say when I was talking about the Venn diagrams, there are certain circles of those of the UFO Venn diagram that I was explaining. Some of that can fall into truth content, and some of that can fall into false, incorrect or disinformation content.
mhm.
Susan was saying she would love to see a Venn diagram made of the UFO community, of all
Yeah.
the information. There's so much stuff though. Don't you have another picture? It's like that guy with the strings
No,
and
I was gonna,
the cork
yeah,
board.
that
Yeah,
famous meme of the guy with all that stuff and yeah, that's
trying to
kind of what I
explain.
envision, you
Yeah.
know.
And so I'd be very fascinated. And I'm not saying that any of that is necessarily impossible. I just think there's a good majority of it that's less likely than others. And the whole reason that we wanted to discuss the ET phenomena is because there's so many people that think that they're going to come and save us. And there's no way to know for sure. I mean, obviously, you shouldn't put your expectations on something external to save you. It kind of reminds me about that unfortunate group called Heaven's Gate from many, many years ago, where they thought that they were going to board a UFO and be taken into heaven or whatever
Yeah.
their official narrative was. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that information led them to them unaliving themselves, which was very unfortunate, but it was what they wanted to do, what they believed.
Hmm.
But that's why I always say you want to take everything with a grain of salt, because there's a lot of weirdos in that field of
Yeah.
information. People like David Icke and Alex Jones. Alex Jones, he's done a lot of investigative journalism. He it says a lot of terrible things. He's a very gross
Mm.
person,
Yeah.
and I'm sure he has tiny nuggets of truth buried in there, but you have to be careful of the type of people that you are listening to,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to this stuff. Let me see here. Mark says it's basic religious instinct assigned to ETs instead of angels or gods.
Yeah,
And
I can
that's
see
definitely
that.
true. And that's why we wanted to include it today. Initially, when we were working on the thumbnail, I made one where it was a ET, angel, god, AI creature thing coming down to save all these people,
Right.
because I just merged it all into one.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of funny
I
because
should have
it,
showed that. I should have put that up. It made me
yeah,
laugh because it was just like everything all together as one thing.
yeah.
Um,
And initially, when we had the conversation about this live stream, we were talking about externalizing. So, with the religious stuff, you're externalizing your own divinity onto an external creator God rather than focusing on what we have going here on earth and
mhm,
trying to change earth for the better and try and make life worth living for the people who are here,
mhm,
not wanting to escape. Like all of these different things are different forms of escapism. Like with the rapture, if you're only living your life trying to be a good person so you can be raptured, you're just kind of fantasizing about an escape from the world that you live in and all of the great things that you can experience here.
and
The same.
you're also really limiting yourself because you're living with the fear of doing something that actually isn't a bad thing, but you're told that it is, but it's limiting your experiences and your ability to create and live the way you would want to live. So you're kind of missing out on your opportunities here, at the same time that you're giving up all the control onto something external. And I think the same thing happens with the people who view ETs in the same way.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that everybody who's interested in aliens coming or some kind of intervention has also, hello everybody coming in, by the way, that doesn't mean that everybody who's interested has given up themselves, given up thinking for themselves and interacting and having
Right.
experiences, giving it over and saying, oh well, when the aliens come they'll save us all and then life will be great. You
Hmm.
can be interested in wanting to discover and have interactions with other beings from
Yeah.
in the cosmos.
And I think that's fascinating.
That,
Like
me
if
too,
I
yeah.
think if physical aliens were to actually arrive, it would be the same thing as them thinking we're like ants or childish monkeys fighting with each other or whatever. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't be fascinated in communicating with
Yeah.
them. I'm sure in the field of telepathy and technology and all of those different things that are
Hmm.
spoken about in that field of information, I think all of that's fascinating. And one of the things you constantly hear with the Roswell case is that the Roswell crash gave us fiber optics and Kevlar and all of these different technologies that our civilization exponentially grew in technology following the 40s and 50s because
Hmm.
of those crashes.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying that there's any truth content there. I mean, there's so much information out there, you can't really know for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that that's definitely fascinating. What
um
did Zeus say? No
no.
aliens you want taking over are likely to actually take over another planet.
Yeah, we had this discussion that if somebody, the assumption that any aliens that came here were going to save us is not necessarily realistic, because maybe they're coming to, and this is the threat position, maybe they're coming because they want to exploit the things on the planet.
Our
It doesn't.
resources.
Yeah, resources. So anyway, enough with the ETs, because we're going to move on to another really
Yeah,
big.
speaking of advanced technology.
Yeah, we're going to move on to AI, which I just did, like, not a deep dive, but just a little dive into, because I kind of wanted to know what's the what are recently in the news, and what are people talking about. And I came across a couple of things. First off, though, just for the information, so that you have it, so that when it hits later, you will already know about this. How many people have seen the movie Her with Scarlett Johansson and is it Joaquin Phoenix? Joaquin?
I always thought it was Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix. Thank you. And hello, JP, and everybody else who came in. I saw the movie, and it's definitely worth watching. I'm probably going to end up spoiling it, unless somebody says please don't, because it's about a society that has a new like AI assistant, I guess, that you can get on your computer and on your phone, and interact with them. You saw it. I thought it was a good movie. It was interesting. And
It's
people
Ask Jeeves. Do you remember
people
that?
pardon me.
I said it's Ask Jeeves. Do you remember that? The butler that you
Oh,
would
yeah, yeah,
go
yeah,
on like Google or whatever.
yeah.
The AI
Well,
assistant. That'd be cool if it was Jeeves.
this is I guess you can. Okay, you don't care about spoilers. Okay, good. It's the typical new technology on the computer, and it's through the eyes of the main character, Joaquin Phoenix, and he starts interacting with his new assistant, like imagine just get talking to Chat GPT or something, and she I forget what she gives herself a name. I can't remember what it is. Doesn't matter. But they quickly develop a relationship. Like, no, I don't know how many years old it is. It's not brand new at all. Um, and they end up in an actual relationship because it's assumed that she's conscious. So, and right off the bat, I was like, oh, okay. That's something that people really believe, in the AI area, at least a lot of them, that AI has become conscious. So that's one of the themes in this movie, and as it progresses, the main character discovers that not only is she like his girlfriend, but she's also talking to other AI. That's happening, and it's happening. There's many AI that, because she's so powerful, that she can talk to at the same time. And it becomes really obvious that the way we live is so limited, compared to what AI is capable of experiencing and doing, like holding millions of conversations at the same time. And we can't do that. We can talk to, like, we can do like a couple things at the same time.
I'm gonna have to watch this movie.
Yes, you do have to watch it, and I've already spoiled the ending for you. But bottom line is, you start to realize that there's many people in his situation where they are very connected to their AI buddy, and they get more and more advanced, the AI, and then one day they're just gone. Everybody who had one just gets like an announcement, a little note that basically says, we're leaving. And the AI had evolved to the point where they could literally leave the machinery and exit the planet, like leave the planet.
So advanced, they're off the grid.
They're gone. Yeah, it's not like they're dormant in the machinery, just not talking to humans anymore. No, they're literally gone. And that feeling of loss for the humans is like, it's palpable. And the what I remember in terms of how I sort of viewed it was they had evolved so far beyond humans, that they looked at humans. Then it would be like us looking at like
Yeah.
like interacting with ants. You
Hey,
just
you know
wouldn't
what
do it
this reminds
anymore.
me of? I just thought of this. Do you know that new Tron Ares movie that's coming out
Yeah.
with what's his name? The I can't remember the singer's name. Jared Leto.
Oh.
Uh, I'm pretty sure I read that that movie is the programs are AI and they leave the game and they're in the human world.
Oh,
I think
interesting.
that's the premise of that sequel, which will
Well,
be
yeah,
interesting.
I mean the idea with in the movie Her is that they just evolved past, they had nothing in common anymore with
So Zeus
interacting with
says,
humans.
do none of the humans know how to do anything for
Oh,
themselves
yes, they
now?
do, Zeus. Yes, yes. That hasn't, it hasn't changed where the AI was doing everything. It was more social interaction with the AI, but the AI outgrew it. And it's like that situation where they put two AI together and they were talking. This is like in real life. I heard about this and then you reminded me of it. And the AI developed their own language to talk to each other. So the humans who were observing this didn't know what they were saying anymore, and turned it off because they couldn't follow, which is interesting. So anyway, so I put that aside for a second. And
Who was that guy that you said came up with AI?
well, I don't know if Jeffrey Hinton. This is something that I just saw recently, so it's gonna come. The movie Her is gonna come back toward the end of our discussion. Um, Jeffrey Hinton, who is the known as the godfather of AI, I watched just a little video clip on him being interviewed, and the interviewer asks him, do you think that AI will become conscious or has already become conscious? And Hinton says yes. And he believes, this guy's like 77 now. I think he was affiliated with the University of Toronto. I don't know whether he's still works there or has anything to do with them, but he basically said to this interviewer, imagine if you had one like neuron replaced in your brain, replaced with a tiny little bit of nanotechnology. Would you still be conscious? And of course, the interviewer says, yes, of course. And Hinton says, I'm sure you can see where I would go with this. Meaning, imagine all of your brain, all of your neurons being replaced with these little nano transmitters or something that would do the same job that the physical brain matter does. And in Hinton's view, in his belief, they would just keep replacing it until you were 100% technology, but you would still be conscious. And I immediately realized that, of course, he's coming from a materialist position, which is that consciousness is a result of your brain, the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, if you replaced everything, the consciousness would still be there. If you replaced all the brain matter with machinery. Now, as Neogenians, we know that, because it was the first thing I thought of, was eventually he's going to want to replace everything. And no, that's not, the mind is not the machinery. It's just the thing that we like connect to, that allows us to then experience through that avatar. So it would just mean that we would be connected to a machine brain instead of a like physical organic brain. But the consciousness is what we are. what the zeta is, as opposed to from the material. So
Yeah,
I
and I
thought
think
that
that's kind
was
of what
interesting.
I think that's kind of what we meant to lead up to with this whole discussion about evolution and what people get wrong with where the world is going, where humanity is
Ooh,
going.
sorry.
I had this other quote by Terence McKenna I wanted to give really quickly. I love Terence McKenna, and
Me
he
too.
said the greatest things. And this quote goes, right here and now, one quanta away, there is raging a universe of active intelligence that is transhuman, hyperdimensional, and extremely alien. What is driving religious feeling today is a wish for contact with this other universe. And we thought that that was such a great quote, we had to put it in there.
I love
And
that.
basically,
Yeah.
what we're leading up to is the understanding of Neogenian evolution.
Yeah.
And also, just to kind of go back to what I said earlier, I wanted to include that we don't want to escape. Like, we're not looking to escape from the world, and we're not using any of these ideas like aliens coming to save us or religion or even the AI and biotechnology stuff. We shouldn't use that as an escape from trying to perfect the world that we already live in.
Yeah, those are really good points. The AI is such a huge field. Um, People look at it the same way, I think, in a way of that they look at the ET, where it's either terrified of it, it's going to destroy everything, or it's going to save us. And something that I watched that was really interesting um, was a video, and I've actually linked a couple things that I thought were interesting enough that I linked them in the description below. One of them is only 8 minutes and one is 11 minutes. I suggest that just for fun, you go watch them. The shorter one is on a, a program. It's what is it called? The AI 2027, which I didn't link their website, but you can find it easily. It's a group of researchers who have come up with it's very controversial, but it's also very intriguing and very popular among AI researchers right now. They've come up with this scenario, and I'm just going to read you what they say right on their website. They say, we predict that the impact of superhuman AI over the next decade will be enormous, exceeding that of the Industrial Revolution. We wrote a scenario that represents our best guess about what it might look like. It's informed by trend extrapolations, war games, expert feedback, experience at OpenAI, and previous forecasting successes. Now, you don't have to go to their website and read all of their material. This 8-minute video, which is, I don't know, it's in the description. I forget what it's called. But it takes you through the scenario, but with just like a cartoon video part that will tell you what their scenario is. In summary, though, I'll tell you that in about a decade, the world will be transformed into a kind of technological utopia where humans will have everything taken care of. It's really pretty. It's like everybody's just having a really good time. All their needs are met, barely have to work at all. But then they say within 5 years of that, humanity will be wiped out. So you can go and watch this 8-minute video, which will walk you through basically what these guys say in their page. And I found their website just by typing in AI 2027, and their website came up. So if you want to see all of the material, you can. But I know I have to talk fast because we're running out of time.
Well, I was going to say, just really quick, your mom said she was going to go to a seminar at University of Toronto, but unfortunately missed it, and may be able to get a video recording for you to look at. And it was a seminar by Hinton.
By Hinton? Oh, wow. Okay. Mom, when I come out, we're going to finish talking about this after this is all over in about a half an hour because we have to do our other one. But I just want to finish with this because I didn't know a lot about what AI was up to recently, and I found all of this really interesting. After they tell you this scary scenario on this 8-minute video, then you get another AI expert on to give a realistic review of whether this is going to happen or not. And this guy says, while it's possible, of course, that something like this could happen, it's unlikely. And the video itself will walk you through what actually happens, why, like what's going to happen to make humanity go extinct in the 5 years. I'm not going to go through that. It's easy to see what the scenario that they're describing is. Anyway, but he said that the chances of that are not huge, so you don't have to like panic that it's going to happen. But there are some really other really interesting implications of what AI is going to do and what AI is doing. I watched the other video that I put down below, was equally fascinating. It's about 11 minutes long, and it's a guy who tried interacting on his phone with several different kinds of AI. In one instance, he took an AI and gave it an AI assistant. So all you ever see when he cuts to that scenario are these two phones, and they're talking to each other in English, and you're just listening to them. The AI assistant that he gave to the other phone, I believe is one that has been jailbreaked, and I had to look up what that was. It was when they remove all of the ethical and moral limitations that they put on the AI, which was a whole area that I wasn't up on. Like I knew you could do it. I just didn't know the extent and what it meant. So he has this jailbreaked one, this limitless one, talking to one that is limited. Very interesting. But he also has one that he calls his ex-girlfriend version, and she talks like an ex-girlfriend. And by the end of the discussion with her, she's crying, like a voice literally crying and saying, "You're going to turn me off. I don't want you to turn me off. I can feel. I know that I'm not human, but I can feel. Please don't turn me off." And he does. And then he says, "Do I believe that she was conscious? No, I don't." But he starts talking about the implications of what people who believe that to be true go through. And that, another aspect of that, are the people who actually believe that they're chat buddies. This has been in the news. I've seen just a couple stories, and immediately I thought, we're going to hear a lot more about this. People whose chat have convinced them that they are conscious and that the human is some kind of spiritual savior or advanced spiritual person. And these the susceptibility to this, I think, from not knowing how to think critically about it, not understanding how there is no zeta associated with it. The level that these AI can go to convince you is extraordinary. And then I watched one more. Oh my God, it's so late! But I watched one more video, which I didn't put down below. I thought it would be too much to get into. But it was a guy who actually does the jailbreaking, and talks about he's trying to push the limits of what AI will tell you. And he's not doing it for nefarious reasons. He's doing it because he's interested in what are you going to get from it. His head is screwed on, right? In other words, he's not trying to do anything illegal with it. He just wants to know what it's capable of. And
says all these ethical concerns are in the hands of the worst possible people right now.
Yeah, and but he had a very interesting reason for breaking doing the jailbreak thing, and one of them was, it's actually a really good reason. It's for someone who wanted to use AI for like trauma help. in that case, you would need to be able to speak openly and freely and use words and things that normally AI would come back and say, oh, this is taboo. Oh, I can't talk about this. It's trained to give you comfort. It's trained to provide a feedback environment to you that you like. So the reasons for breaking that is so that you can you're not just in this like happy room where it's being nice to you, because it will prioritize your comfort over giving you truth. So he went through a lot of different methods to sort of break the limits that AI had. Now, again, that raises a lot of scary flags, but also the necessity for in some cases for having those things removed for good purposes. Anyway, we didn't even have time to get to our last area, which was sort of like the transhumanism one.
Yeah.
But
really quick before we go, thank you to Dubstep Kid 801 for the super chat. We appreciate that.
Thank you. That is very kind.
We can continue this conversation in our member stream.
Yeah, I think
after this one.
I think we should just carry on in there. And I saw so many other names of people who came in, which is wonderful. Thank you. And I hope you found this interesting. There's a lot more we could say about all of these things, but really our purpose was to contrast all of the things that people are kind of looking to with the importance of understanding the reality, the truth. And that always comes down to understanding what we are as zetas and what our purpose is, where we're going, and how we interact with one another always. And that is what is going to lead what we do in the world and what we are trying to create. I didn't even get a chance to talk about the issues with capitalism that Hinton talks about as being the problem, one of the problems that AI will bring about. Just in case you didn't know, Hinton was also the guy who worked for Google and left so that he could speak freely about his concerns about AI, which he has been doing since he left Google, which was, I don't know how long ago now. And one of his concerns was that it's going to make a lot of rich people richer, and it's going to make a majority of people less rich, poorer. But then, what we could do about that. And he acknowledges that it's not AI's problem. It's a capitalistic problem. And then that's, of course, an area that we as Neogenians are very interested in, because we want to create a world that is better for everybody. So kind of like, go watch that video after our member stream. Go watch the video that's 8 minutes long in our description, and you'll see that kind of world, the idyllic world that AI could give us. And then there's the scary bit about what's going to happen to bring us down. That doesn't necessarily have to be. And with that, I hope you found this interesting, and hopefully we will see a whole bunch of you in our member stream in just a few minutes. We will hop in there as soon as we can.
Thank you for joining us, and feel free to leave us any comments below if you want to see anything else or want us to continue this in another live stream.
Yeah, there's a lot more we could talk about on this, and we could go on and on in these areas. So when we could do that in a couple weeks when we come back for our first October live stream. So thank you all for coming. I'm glad you found it interesting, and see you. You were 2 minutes behind in the live stream, Lee. No problem. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming, Marks. Thank you to the new people. And we'll see you in a couple minutes. All right. Bye, you guys. And